was created by my teacher. His name's Howard Beckerman. He did a lot of animation for UPI, a lot of animation like Hanna-Barbera. So he's been around for a long, long time. So this is the animation script that we had to follow. I'm sure it's done visually, but we had to do it on a piece of 8x10 paper. So as you can see here, on the bottom, person's action, what he does, audio, music.
Hi, I'm here.
So 24 frames, 24 frames, 48, 72, 96, so on, up to 336. So 336 divided by 24 will give you minutes. Mind you, this is a very, very simple way of doing it. For the more complex, they have more layers upon layers of script stuff that people have to look at. Pre-production animation. The artists, they actually draw it first in a larger scale and use various animation tools at their disposal. For example, they use this animation peg bar to first draw some paper. For example, this is a very, very simple animated character. And after that, they will transfer this onto the cell. The cells itself are very expensive. To let you know, no one does this anymore because of the cost. Nowadays, people just draw the character using animation bond paper, and they use a scanner, and they do the other inking and stuff like that. Before 2000, everything was transferred onto this animation cell. There were two people that you should know that used to use. His name is Steve Bennett and Jan Scott Fraser. They are two foreign artists from America that actually work in Japan and did this simple technique. If you go to my blog, it will show you, it will explain why they don't like this. This is simple character design. Uses these drawings and give a character to life. This character here, this is what I did for digitation. This is a very simple down, back, side, so on. You can get really more extravagant like you see with Elizabeth's drawings. If we try to animate some of Elizabeth's work, you would have an aneurysm. Because it's too complicated. But that's what a lot of animators do in Japan. They do the most complicated thing that will give someone a heart attack. Unfortunately, a lot of the artists in Japan don't get paid a lot of money. The normal salary for an animator in Japan is probably less than 1,000 a month, 1,500 a month. That's not enough to get money. Especially in Japan where a cup of coffee costs $5.
Yeah, expensive.
Okay, peg bars. Peg bars are these guys here. This peg bar here is called Acme, like the Warner Brothers cartoon supplying company, Acme. This is what most animators use nowadays because it's very thin and everyone can use it. The predecessor of this was called Oxford registration. This is what Disney used to use. Before that, an animator by the name of Winsor McKay just stapled paper together. He used hole punches. When Disney came, he used this kind of registration. Nowadays, we use something called Acme registration. I'll explain a little bit more during the workshop. As I said before, these peg bars will be $5. When you do the workshop, this will be yours. Plus a lot of other goodies. Okay, this is another keyframes. This is the most important to give the animated character to life. This keyframe was created by Howard Beckman, my teacher from SBA. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to do a lot of walk cycles. Walk cycles are the most important thing in animation. For example, if you want to walk from right to left, you have to follow this frame. For example, you go frame 1, 2, 3, and so on. The whole thing, if you want to walk. Since walking is about 24 frames, you have to do exactly like this. So on. We can keep repeating it. It's very complicated. Walk cycles can be very simple or very complicated. This is the most simple way of doing a walk cycle. There are different, you can do skips or hops or so on. But you also have to follow the same principle of bending the knee, forward, and so on. You also have to do a lot of physics too, a lot of physical motion. You also involve several things. Science, mathematics, biology. Since you're making a living thing, you have to consider a lot of the sciences and math. It deals with characters. It's not just drawing pretty pictures. It involves a lot of mathematics and science. Animation cells. Papers are transferred onto transparent sheets. These are called animation cells. The paint is added to the back. Use some sort of acrylic paint on the back. What's the bad thing about animation painting is you have to wait until the paint dries. Paint on it and then do the animation itself. You're going to smear the paint onto the camera lens or under the glass where you do the animation, and you're out of like maybe $5,000 or more for the animation camera. So you have to wait until the animation itself, paint dries, and then do the animation work. Very time-consuming process. Nowadays, everyone does this digitally because it saves a lot of money. Keep going to money because that's a very important thing nowadays.
Couldn't believe me more.
All the materials put together and given to the animator, which is me. That's another thing that I like to do. I like to animate. I like to put the thing in the animation camera and make sure that it gives life. I'll let you know what the animator uses. This is called an animation camera or animation stand. This is called a master Oxford. They use 35mm film when I was an undergrad. Now the major thing for the Oxford camera is the table here, which has some glass on it. So there's a light source here. We have a halogen or tungsten lamp, which will be very bright. Also, you need to wear short sleeve shirts and short pants. It's very hot. Usually when you get in there, you're very pale. When you get out, you're very tan. Also, you have a camera here. It used to be a 35mm camera. Nowadays, it's done by digital. Very simple setup. What Disney did, he had the same thing, but he layered it. This is the animation camera. This is the cell 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's say you're watching Snow White and you're watching Snow White walk. Okay, this cell here is the background, colored background. Forest, birds, whatever, the shark, and Snow White. Follows these. It's very time consuming. Disney had a lot of money back then. Nowadays, all of this setup is done digitally using the computer. The last step, post-production, all the animation, audio, and so on are put together. Normally, the producer or director are with the production crew. If they don't like it, they're allowed to retweak it and animate it again. They're allowed to go back, reanimate it, and then shoot it again. This will be an on and off process. Might take maybe a week, 2 weeks, a year to redo it. If something goes wrong, it needs to be taken care of. You need to go back. Also, time is money. So your budget might be $5,000, it might have been up to $5 million. As I said, but nowadays all the work is done on the computer, mostly Macs. How many people use a Mac? No one uses a Mac? Macs are very good, important tools. So are PCs. Who uses a PC? I don't like it. Either or, if you use a Mac or a PC, all of the production work using Photoshop, Alias, or Adobe, all those products can be used on your computer. Cell painting are done using Adobe products. Who likes Adobe products? That should be everyone. Okay. All the animation work is painting done on the computer. On my blog, Jan Scott Fraser was saying that he loved the computer. He hated the animation painting because it cost him
money.
A lot of money. Yen is extremely expensive. Since Japan is a very small country, they don't have a lot of resources like we do. There are very few people that do it by hand. For example, my mentor, his name is Bill Clinton. How many people remember the old MTV animations of a guy talking or something? There's a very famous animation about an old guy talking, all these crazy animations. This is done by an artist by the name of Bill Clinton. He's an independent animator that's been living in New York. He's been doing this for over 30 years. He is the only artist that I know of that does the animation, traditional animation, the old-fashioned way by using animation cells. I think Hayao Miyazaki does this, but I'm not sure. Also, there is an animated TV show in Japan that does this old-fashioned way. It's called Saito-san. This animation has been around since the 60s. It started as a comic strip, and then it gradually became an animated show on Fuji TV. When I used to live in Japan, I watched this show regularly because I was trying to follow the techniques. I'm sure if you go to YouTube, they'll have some shorts of Saizai-san. S-A-Z-E-S-A-N. If you have any questions, I will probably put the names of the features and the shows on my blog. If you ask me questions. I hope. Okay, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Yes. Leave me back.
Is that every single day or just certain days?
It's every Sunday at 7:30 on Fuji TV.
Which is 6:30 in the morning here.
I'm sure you have to go online.
I have cable TV, which allows me to watch Japanese TV on your computer.
Anyone else?
I'm sure that has Fuji TV. I know it has TV Tokyo.
Anyone else?
Usually there's like a lot of animators doing the work. How do they get it consistent with each other? Is there usually like a supervisor who goes through the work and...
Yes, the supervisor has a very important job to make sure that each of the characters are consistent. Let's say there are 5 animators, or 10 animators, there are maybe one director making sure that the featured characters look the same. If your work is good enough, you could be a character designer, but I think in most studios you have to be a jack of all trades. You have to know a little bit of everything. That's how I used to be as an animator, but you would also have to, I would recommend researching that on the web.
hard is it to animate a human compared to an animated object like a robot? Not like, because you were talking about physics and science. So how hard is it to animate a human compared to animating a machine?
Well, for a human, they just have to judge the weight. Let's say the weight is like my weight. And you also have to factor in the physics and the gravity of that. But if you're doing a robot, maybe it's about the robot's 400 or 500 tons. And then you have to factor in how slow it goes. It doesn't go as fast as a human. So you have to factor in how slow it goes up and goes down or something like that. They do a lot of cheating in Japanese animation.
I was gonna ask, like, you said that the normal number of frames per second is 24.
Well, that's the general rule, 24 frames per second.
So sometimes they even go less than that to make it to cut costs, or?
Yes. In the 60s, an animator by the name was Osamu Tezuka did just that. He created an animated short called Astro Boy. And he did a lot, and since he didn't have a lot of money, he had to make a lot of shortcuts and make sure that it runs not so smoothly, but it's very jerky because they were under a budget. It's kind of like the Hanna-Barbera. So budget was the main thing. And also, the workshop will be starting in about 5 or 10 minutes. If you have not signed up for your animation pay card, you can sign up over there in the back. So, does anyone else have any questions? Alright, thank you.
Workshops in 5 minutes.